Welcome back to Ellis Reviews. Remember to subscribe, that way you won't miss a single episode. Right, I have had the AirPods Pro for 6 months-ish now, and if you're wondering whether to buy these over the old, well, not the old, actually the alternative AirPods, the kind of those ones, I've got the definitive answer for you. That's because I've learnt so much in 6 months of using these, and I'd like to share my findings. I think you'll find them very interesting. So I was one of the first people to get the original AirPods and have people question what these little white bogey things were sticking out of my ears. To be honest though, I've no shame in that whatsoever. I love them. I think they were absolutely one of the best things that Apple designed in terms of convenience, the way they connect to your phone and to your laptop and everything about them, the way they charged in the case. Brilliant. So I always loved them. They did look a bit dorky, there's no two ways about that. So in February, I decided to upgrade and get the AirPods Pro. And yes, I did have them engraved, which I regret. It looks ridiculous, but we'll put that to one side. And since then, so since February, I've really put these to task, both in terms of walking the dog, a lot of gym work, a huge amount of work in terms of phone calls and things and Zoom calls and what have you. And I've got some thoughts, and I've also had quite a big issue with them, which has only surfaced recently, which I'll explain later. But yeah, this is my kind of definitive long-term-ish review of the AirPods Pro, and I'm hoping I'm going to give you a reason to either buy the AirPods Pro or actually plump for the standard AirPods. So yeah, let's get into it. So the sound. Now the AirPods, the original AirPods, sound pretty good. I mean, they're not audiophile standard at all. My recent review of the XM4 Sony's over-ears is nothing like that experience, because it's not going to be. There are these tiny little earphones which produce sound which is incredibly similar, if not identical, I think, to the standard AirPods. No, sorry, EarPods, the ones that go in your ears and have one of those old-fashioned wires coming out of them. Now the AirPods Pro sound better. Now I think a lot of that is down to the noise cancelling. I think that plays a huge role in that. But they do just sound better. The bass is a bit beefier, top end's a bit nicer. I think, as with a lot of these headphones, the middle is a little bit muddy at times, but it's pretty well defined for any listening experience, any type of music. They work pretty well. Again, they're not going to win any audiophile awards, and if you're really into your headphones, you're probably not going to buy AirPods. I wouldn't have thought. You'd probably go for something a bit more expensive. I am a bit of an audiophile actually, so I'm kind of going against what I've just said, but for me, they just sound really good. I think for the money, they're not bad. So sound-wise, fine. And in comparison, these AirPod Pros are much better than the original or standard AirPods, whatever you want to call these, when it comes to sound. They just sound better. So these are definitely worth it if sound matters to you. Noise cancelling. These standard AirPods don't have noise cancelling, so that puts them out the water. AirPods Pro, that was one of the big selling points of these. They come with active noise cancelling, which I think for an earphone that is that big is pretty impressive, really. I think that I've always found, I don't know how they pack so much technology into these. It's fascinating. You can do 3 things with this. You can either have the noise cancelling off completely, or you can have it on, obviously. But you can also have something called transparency mode, which I'll come on to a bit later. But the noise cancelling is actually really good. Again, for a headphone of this size, I wouldn't expect anything amazing, but the fit that you get with the little earbud things, it just creates this seal in your ear. So even when you put them in without noise cancelling on, it kind of blocks a lot of the noise out. Now, it's nothing like a pair of Sony XM4s, a really good pair of over-ear noise cancelling headphones. These are not, but they are, in my view, incredibly capable. It doesn't block everything out. You don't kind of envelope yourself in this little cocoon of your own sound. It's not quite like that, but it's definitely surprising when you turn it on. When you first put the headphones in, then you turn them on and the noise cancelling comes on, everything does kind of get compressed outside. You can't really hear it as much. It's still there, but not as much. The only thing I have found with them is that effect you kind of get used to. I've not experienced this with other noise cancelling headphones. So, and by that I mean, using them now, occasionally I have to just double check that noise cancelling's on. I do that. You do that by squeezing the earbud, and it will switch between transparency mode and the noise cancelling. But I'm finding myself doing that more often than not now in terms of trying to work out if it's actually turned on. That bothers me a little bit because it feels like I've become used to the noise cancelling, and if I can't tell that it's on, how effective is it? I don't know. It's definitely effective. It definitely cuts the noise out around you. But if you want to use these to get a lot of work done and you can't deal with a noisy coffee shop or the kids screaming around the house, they're probably not going to do an amazing job for you in that front. I think given how small they are, I think they do an admirable job of noise cancelling. But for me, it's not the main selling point of these. The main selling point of the AirPods Pro is that they're still AirPods, and AirPods are so convenient. The noise cancelling is a nice extra, actually, but that's kind of where it ends for me. So the comfort, the standard... Just drop them. The standard AirPods fall out of my ears in a really odd kind of way. So the right one stays in, the left one falls out. And it falls out, not all the time, but only during certain circumstances. So it falls out when I'm running, for example, and it falls out when I'm eating. Don't know why. So that was always a bit of a frustration, but I had that problem with the normal standard cord AirPods as well, so it's just a fact of that design really. Now, because the AirPods Pro are a totally different design, they feature these little rubber pad things, or bud things, whatever they're called. For whatever reason, they both stay in my ears, and they stay in very comfortably. I've never had the issue of them falling out when running, and they're just very, very comfy. You can wear these for a long, long time, and you just forget they're there. So in terms of comfort, thumbs up. For me, they're much more comfortable than these. I get a little bit of fatigue wearing these as well when they stay in the ears. After a while, it starts to hurt a little bit, whereas with these, it's just great. They feel very, very comfortable. So if comfort is your thing, which why wouldn't it be? The AirPods Pro are great, and they are better than the standard AirPods. Call quality, simple. It's brilliant. But again, the standard AirPods are very good for call quality as well. I think it's why you see so many people using them on the news. Even journalists have got them in. If you're a Mac user or you use your iPad, whatever you use for video calling or just standard calls, yeah, call quality top notch. I don't think you can better these really. So Apple says that with multiple charges in your case, so as long as the case is charged up, you can get over 24 hours of listening time and more than 18 hours of talk time. With a single charge, you get about 4.5 hours of listening time or up to 3.5 hours of talk time. Now, a lot of this depends on whether or not you're using active noise cancellation. Again, I think they're pretty impressive. Given the size, I always keep coming back to this, they're tiny little things. The battery is great, and because the case charges the battery. However, you do have to remember to charge the case. Now, after 6 months of owning these, I do feel like I charge these a lot more than the standard AirPods. Charging these was a very, very rare thing in a way, oddly. I never really felt like I was doing it that often, whereas with these I do feel like I have to remember to charge the case quite a bit. I've also had a bit of a problem with admittedly cheap Qi charging pad that I use. Doesn't always pick these up, and even when it does, they charge incredibly slowly on that. Again, that might just be the cheap pad that I'm using, I don't know. That is something to bear in mind. So yeah, the active noise cancelling I think is one of the big culprits of battery chewability. You get enough, you get an acceptable number of hours out of these, but just bear in mind that you do get more out of these in terms of out of the old AirPods in terms of charge. That's the only thing I'd say. A few miscellaneous things. I noticed that the case isn't as well made as the original case, if I'm honest. The size of it doesn't bother me. A lot of people have been a little bit disappointed by the size of this one compared to the standard AirPods, but actually when you put them side by side, it's not that different really. The other thing I have noticed, the top of the case makes that noise. And looking at forums, it's quite a standard issue, I think, but it doesn't matter after a while, to be honest, and who cares? But it's just little things like that about Apple occasionally annoy me. Their quality control isn't always that great in my experience. They're great gym earbuds. They're water resistant, I believe. They're not fully water, you can go swimming with them, but you can get them wet in terms of rain and sweat. I've never had an issue with that. So in terms of a gym pair of headphones, I think they're brilliant. And because they stay in my ears, I can run in them, I can do anything. They also don't get as gunky. Now, I won't give you any close-ups of this because it's horrendous, but the old AirPods do get, in my experience, a little bit gunky, a little bit minging. The AirPods Pro don't get as bad because they've got these rubberized tips that go in your ear, and they just don't collect the ear gunk. we'll leave that there, but they're just a bit cleaner. And the case seems to stay cleaner as well, which I quite like. Transparency mode. Now this is where you squeeze the earbud and it turns off the active noise cancellation and lets some of the outside ambient noise filter in. Very hard to describe how this works without experiencing it, but it doesn't just let noise in, it almost synthesizes it. It's very hard to explain. It comes through as like a filtered version of the outside world, just so that you can hear enough, so you can hear traffic passing by, you can hear people talking to you. But it's an odd experience. It takes some getting used to, but it's quite useful. I use it quite a lot. So if I'm perhaps on a very busy road, I'm walking the dog, or I want to be aware of my surroundings a little bit more, I just flip the transparency mode on. It doesn't really affect the sound a huge amount. You perhaps lose a little bit bass response for some reason, but it still sounds pretty good, so I wouldn't worry about that. But yeah, it's just a nice little feature that's very easy to turn on and turn off. And just very quickly on that as well, the new controls where on the old AirPods, the standard AirPods, you tap them basically to control them. Now you don't do that with the AirPods Pro. Instead, you just squeeze the tip, do various things that way. Now it takes again a bit of getting used to at first, but when it kind of clicks, or it feels like it clicks. I'm not sure if it's haptic or it's just a noise, but it's it's quite intuitive after a while, and it becomes second nature. Just a nice little feature. The other thing I love with AirPods Pro, and again you get these with the standard AirPods to a degree, is the way they switch between devices. And if you're all in with Apple like I am, so I've got an iPad and a phone, an iPhone, a MacBook, an iMac, etc. The switching between those devices is so easy. If you're like me and you do go between Apple devices, they're by far the best headphones for that. There's no two ways about that. Now, I have experienced an issue with these, and I should say with the previous generation AirPods, I never had a single problem with them. They were great. They were flawless in every way, basically. The problem with the AirPods Pro is that the right earbud recently has started rattling. And again, it's very hard to explain unless you experience it. It sounds like a mechanical rattle. I first noticed it when I was coughing. So I'd cough and it would almost like distort. It'd be like a flappy kind of distortion sound. I just thought that was perhaps some dirt in there or something. Cleaned them, still the same thing. And it's got worse progressively over time. So now if I'm running, I can hear it in my ear rattling. Now weirdly, the sound isn't affected. It's not as though it's actually just physically distorting. The sound in fact is as good as it was before. It's just this really annoying, strange rattling sound. So as always, I did a little bit of hunting on the web, on Apple forums, and discovered that it's actually quite a common problem. So I've ordered a replacement, that's on the way this week. I will report back on how that develops, but it just bothers me a little bit when something like that happens after 6 months of use. Now I have put them through the ringer, that they've been properly used. I've not abused them at all. I've just used them every single day, either at the gym or while working or dog walking, whatever it might be. So they get an awful lot of use, but a £250 pair of headphones should be able to stack up to that. So that's just one thing that's bothered me. And it is, like I say, it looks like a common issue. My left earbud's fine, it's just the right one. Just bear that in mind, that there may be a quality control issue there, who knows. So the verdict, do you go with the AirPods Pro or the standard AirPods? If it was me and I didn't like the idea of spending £250 on a pair of headphones, I would just go for the standard AirPods. If you get them without the charging case, they're 150, 160 UK pounds, I think, at the moment. About the same in dollars, I think. I think that's a bargain, personally. I think given how convenient they are and how well they sound and just how well they integrate with the Apple ecosystem, obviously, I think they're a bit of a bargain. However, if you can stretch another £100, you're getting quite an upgrade with the AirPods Pro. So that rattling issue to one side, I was really pleased with these, really happy. If, like me, you've got funny ears, they fit better, they sound better, the noise cancelling isn't world class, but it makes a difference and it's very useful. The transparency mode is very handy. I think the case is a better design, even though I do have that weird clicking thing on them. I do think the case is a much better design. They're worth it. £100 extra is worth it, unless you don't want to spend that much money. I think we reach a point with headphones where you go, once you're above the 150 price bracket, it becomes quite hard to justify unless you're really into your headphones. For a lot of people, spending 250 quid on headphones is unthinkable, particularly when most people get their white Apple AirPods with the cable, and they're perfectly happy with those. And if that's the case, but you've seen people wandering around with these on and think, what are they? Or if you just want to get rid of cables, there's a lot of merit in doing that, I must be honest. These are great. They're still great. I guess Apple will carry on selling these for quite a while now. You know, we're quite a way off the AirPods Pro being the standard, AirPods of choice. They're definitely a Pro version in that respect. But these are still a great buy. Absolutely. You know, we're probably not far off a year into these being available, so there's a good chance they're going to be superseded at some stage, possibly this year, maybe early next year. But even so, it's still worth buying them, I think, if you're into a bit of a better sound, you do value decent headphones, and if noise cancelling is something that matters to you, they're a good buy, definitely. I'm going to be reviewing some alternatives to the Apple AirPods relatively soon, because I think there's lots in the market they're worth a look at. But in the meantime, if you are still weighing up different choices for earphones, check out my Sony XM4 review, where I compare the XM4s against the XM3s. They've got a much longer name than that, but it's just bewilderingly annoying, so I won't mention it. And if noise cancelling is something you really want to go for, you need to watch that video. In the meantime, thanks for watching.